Here we go. I'm going to start the recording right now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brent Ford, AME pathway teacher at El Cajon Valley High School. This is for my multimedia 1-2 class, which is the intro class to multimedia. And I'd like to welcome everybody here today. We have a guest speaker in our Zoom meeting today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Jay Parkin from Taylor Guitars. Wish we had a sound effect there for like a huge crowd noise. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jay Parkin is, well, I'm going to let him tell you what his job title is and a little bit about what he does for a living. But he has been a guest speaker in our class for the last 2 years. And I am really proud to know him as a human being, but more importantly for this class, that he comes to us with incredible experience in the field of what we're studying as arts, media, and entertainment. So anyway, if you guys didn't know, Taylor Guitars is one of, if not the biggest guitar manufacturing companies in the world. They're located right here in El Cajon, and they make fabulous guitars. I was lucky enough to just purchase a Taylor mini bass guitar and over the summer, and I sold off a couple of my other guitars, and I got the Taylor mini bass, and man, I just cannot stop playing it. It's such a nice instrument, and I got the Koa wood one, and it's just amazing. So I love Taylor guitars, and now I'm actually playing one, so I can definitely say that. So Jay Parkin, why don't you take it away and tell us a little bit about what your role in Taylor Guitars is and what you do for a living.
Hey, thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me back. Hey, everyone watching, how you doing? I hope distance learning is okay. I know it can be a pain and not always fun to log in and sit in front of a blue screen all day long, but it's you know, I'm watching I have 2 daughters, and trying as parents to homeschool, you know, Mr. Ford, we have a lot of respect for teachers because a lot of us aren't cut out for, you know, the patience level that you guys have to have. So we appreciate you for sure. And I appreciate you guys allowing me to come to back in, even if it's via Zoom, to talk about what I do. So at Taylor Guitars, my job title is Content Marketing Manager. However, I came to Taylor when even Taylor Guitars didn't really know what that meant. So let me break down exactly what I do and what I'm responsible for, and then that might help trigger some questions for you guys. So I oversee, or I make sure that things happen the right way. Social marketing, so that's all social media. Content marketing, that is mainly video, consumer-facing video content. So storytelling, anything that a consumer or a potential guitar player or guitar buyer would consume, along with website stuff. So written, blog, everything like that you would see on a web experience. That is kind of my eye that I look at and make sure that we're doing it the right way. And then music. So on top of that, I work really closely with our artist relations team. I sit kind of high on the artist relations team because not only do I work with professional artists, and from famous to brand new, never heard of them before, but I also manage all of our influencer marketing. You've probably heard people say they want to be influencers, right? Well, for us, influencers could be people who have 1,000 people following them on social media, or millions of people following them on social media. And they could be a lot of the, I don't know if you were in the beginning where you heard Mr. Ford and I going back and forth about baseball, I represent Taylor Guitars with MLB. So I manage all of our baseball players who play guitars as well, which is super fun if you're a baseball fan. Also football players and skateboarders and surfers, and you can guess anybody who is influential um, to anybody else, right? And often you say a famous guitar player. We'll say one of the most famous lefty guitar players right now would be Justin Bieber. Okay, so Justin Bieber is a fantastic guitar player. He started playing guitar when he was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, and he was busking, if you know what that means, right? Sitting on a street corner, and he was playing music for tips before he got discovered. And he would be pretty influential, right?
Yeah.
That's an influential, but that would be like a standard. He plays music, he writes songs, he's a performer. That's an influencer on the professional musician side. But I also deal with, right? I don't know if any of you are skateboarders, but Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk is a big influential skateboarder. We work with Tony pretty often. But another one who's really influential for skateboarding is a guy named Chris Cole.
Hmm.
Chris Cole, if you look at him on social media, his Instagram handle is Chris Cobra Cole, and he's got north of 1 million followers. 1 million followers. So if he's got 1 million followers, he's pretty influential already. Now, on top of being a skateboarder, he's also a guitar player. You see where I connect those two dots? So
Oh,
what that allows me to do is put Taylor guitars in front of skateboarders who are maybe interested in playing guitar. Or another big guitar player in baseball, for example, on the Padres. Well, he just got traded to Cleveland, but Austin Hedges was a backup catcher for the Padres for a while, and then when they had their trade deadline and they cleaned house,
yeah.
right? They he ended up going to Cleveland, but he's a big guitar player as well. Not a lot of people knew that.
Hopefully,
That
hopefully he plays reggae music.
he doesn't. He plays rock music. His one of his best friends is Jack White. So
Oh,
and then so there's a big connection between professional athletes always want to be famous rock stars, and rock stars always want to be famous athletes. And that's how it goes. So I've been able to connect those dots. But I also do all of our storytelling, all of our video storytelling. And those stories come in all different shapes and sizes. Been working for the last 4 years or 3 years on a feature documentary that hopefully will be released on Netflix. And that is just talking about how and what we are doing with the wood species ebony, which comes from Cameroon in West Africa. Um, but I also tell other stories. I tell stories of artists. I tell stories of promotional stories. We have a few new guitars coming out. In fact, we have a new guitar coming out right now that I would say is the greatest guitar of all time. And my job, total storyteller, right? Got to be a storyteller, and it's something that's fun. So I thrive on how I got into this career was just what you just said, right? Storytelling. I truly enjoy telling stories. I like telling visual stories. I like telling stories through music. I like writing stories. I like telling stories through photos, right? So if you go to our Instagram, for example, and you see beautiful guitars, sometimes I posted a guitar the other day, and all of a sudden it has like 15,000 likes on it just because it's beautiful. And the story I'm telling there, the copy or the post text said the name of the guitar or the model, which is a Builder's Edition 816 CE. And then I simply wrote, so fresh, so clean. So fresh, so clean is the title of an Outcast song. If anybody knows that, probably Mr. Ford knows that.
I know Outcast.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is little things that you can tie together in storytelling with music, right? So I took a song lyric and added it to a guitar and posted a picture of it. And next thing you know, everybody is reacting. So the reason I got into content marketing is because A, I enjoy telling stories, but B, I really enjoy engaging with the people who consume those stories. So, like you guys, if you're on our website or if you're on our social media channels, it's what information do you want? Um, Content marketing. That's a good question. Content marketing is um, different for a lot of people. There's a few different kind of uh, definitions, we'll say. Content marketing is serving people compelling information in different ways of distribution. That is a very simple put way. Mr. Ford, for example, may go to YouTube to shop for a new washer and dryer. And when he's on YouTube looking for different washers and dryers, he has to get some information. So, as a content marketer, you want to provide that information so that he doesn't have to wonder anymore. So, we call it a little technique on the internet called you ask, we answer. So, when you go to Google and you type in, what is the best washer and dryer for San Diego? I don't know, that would be a silly question, but what if that was your question? I have to be able to find those keywords and serve you information that answers that question. Pretty simple. So, in my terms, a lot of people search on the internet for what is the best guitar for a beginner? Or there's different kinds of playing guitars, right? So, Mr. Ford's a bass player, I'm a bass player. But let's say just a six-string guitar. There's playing with your fingertips, so finger style. There's playing with a pick, right? Strumming the guitar. That's a strum. And then there's another kind of playing that there's a few different kinds of styles, but one would be flat picking, and that's when you hear different genres of music like bluegrass or something where they're hitting every single string, right? I can't do it. I'm not good at that at all. And then there's another kind that's really funny. It's got a name called chicken picking, and that's because you hold a pick here, and you pick with the top of your hand, and then you use your fingers on the rest of the guitar. So chicken picking. So there could be somebody searching on the internet, on YouTube, or just going to Google and saying, "What is the best acoustic guitar for chicken picking?"
Mhm.
And I have to be able to supply that information. I know it's funny, isn't it? Chicken picking is funny, and but it's a thing that people love, and it's a thing that people are good at. So content marketing as a whole is just providing people the information or the answers to the questions they're asking on the internet. That's it. And so I really got into that. Someone came to me one day and said, "You're a really good storyteller." And I said, "Well, thanks." And then they said, "Have you ever been involved in done content marketing?" And I said, "Content? That's a big gray area, right? Because everything is content. This pic is content. This video that we're recording right now is content. The photo that's on my Instagram is content. I mean, I can keep going, right? You've seen one of these before? This is a picture. It's actually
A photograph. What is that? I've never.
that is content, right? So content marketing is just simply that. How can we give this information to people? And I'm more into organic content, which means I don't want to pay for people to consume it. That's how I got into social media marketing, right? I want you to have this information for free.
Mhm.
And I want the content that we provide to help build trust in our brand, Taylor Guitars. So
Mhm.
behind me, there's a sign. You probably can't see it. Maybe you can. It's not that clear, but it says From the Factory Podcast. Podcast. I also co host the Taylor Podcast because that is how a lot of people like to consume content. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So they don't want to watch it, they don't want to look at a picture, they
Mhm.
want to drive in their car. That's often where, let's be real, that's often where podcasts are consumed. They get in their car like radio. Chicken picking. Look, someone did it. They looked it up. That's amazing. Uh, that's so good. Chicken picking. It's a real thing. Um, so, a podcast, right? Listening to everything. They just want to listen to it like someone is talking in their ear. So, our podcast is really successful. It's got almost 250,000 downloads, and I feel silly sometimes when I'm on there and people want to hear me talk. So that's interesting. The other thing that I host now is we have a live YouTube show every Tuesday night called Taylor Primetime. You want to know how silly this one is? This is silly. It's the lowest budget production I could ever imagine. I log on to Zoom with three other people, a co host, her name is Lindsay. I have a product specialist, his name is Andy. And I have a guest, a different guest every week. We're in Zoom and we have four people in the screen. I go to the bottom corner of Zoom and I publish the Zoom meeting live to YouTube.
Interesting.
No production.
I love that.
There's no production behind it. And all we talk about is a specific subject. Last week, or excuse me, last night, so it happens every Tuesday at 6 p.m., get it? Prime time. And so last night we had Charlie Redden, who is our director of wood sourcing and operations. His job is to oversee all of the different species of wood that we procure to make instruments with. We purchase and we get wood from all over the world. I mean, mahogany comes from Fiji or Guatemala. Blackwood comes from Tasmania. If anyone knows where that is, tell me, because it's a very tiny island out by Australia. So maple, we get maple in two areas. We get maple on the northeast of North America, kind of into Canada just a little, and then we get it on the northwest, and two different kinds of maple. One maple is for back and sides, and one maple is for the neck of the guitar. We get rosewood from India. We get spruce from Canada, and sometimes Ireland. And we get mahogany. We get oh boy, koa. Oh, that's a good one. Koa we get from Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii. It's the only you can only get koa on Hawaii. Ebony we get in Cameroon. You see all these different wood species. Cocobolo we get in Mexico. Brazilian rosewood we get in Brazil. Um, I mean cedar. It comes from everywhere. We have so much wood. Now I just told you a little story, right? I just told you where all this wood comes from. That's part of my job. My job now is to show you where all this wood comes from and to talk about it. So last night, the subject of prime time was how trees become guitars. And it was awesome. And we get hundreds of people, usually about 200, sometimes 300 people watching us. So imagine that. We're in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
We can't go anywhere. It was my job to figure out how to build some hype, right, for our guitars. And the only one of the only ways that I thought we could do it is I said, "Hey, Zoom meetings are very familiar to everyone in this on this right now. We
Right.
have to do this every single day. How about we just publish our Zoom meeting so people can hang out with us and ask questions?" So now they get all their questions answered. I make it fun though, right? We get a lot of hate. because it's social media, so you get hate, right? So we have a segment of the show called Hug Your Haters because a lot of people on the internet, we like to call them trolls, right? A lot of people on the internet who troll, I actually feel really bad for. You want to know why? You don't know what's up with them, right? You don't know if they're having a bad day. You don't know if they stubbed their toe or a car ran over their foot or their well,
They lost their
family is
job.
sick or they lost their job or whatever. And so they go and hide behind this thing and they just start yelling and start talking trash, right? And so me being a big avid sports fan, I love the NBA. Love it. Okay? You deal with trolls every day on Twitter. That's right. Right? That's what happens, but you don't know why. So now, I'm a lifetime Chicago Bulls and lifetime Golden State Warriors fan. When I was in 3rd grade, I lived in San Francisco, and on the Oakland side, I should say. And the first basketball game I ever went to see was Michael Jordan's Bulls against Chris Mullin's Warriors. Those are old names. I get it. You all know who go Lakers. I'm back the Lakers right now, but my friend, you gotta watch out for my Denver Nuggets. That's gonna be a good one right there. I think they could upset. Anyway, I get it. We'll talk sports in a minute because part of primetime we have a segment called 2 minutes of sports. Anyway, so the first game I ever went to, right? So I fell in love with the Bulls and the Warriors. So now I go to college at Michigan State. Guess who comes from Michigan State? Draymond Green, the biggest and best trash talker in the NBA. And guess what? He hugs his haters every single day. He is so good on social media because when people say mean things to him, he puts his arms out and says, "I hear you. I would feel the same way." So that's what we do. We hug our haters every single day. It's part of my job is to go out there and just say, "I hear you. Maybe let's use a little bit more respect, and we can do that. We can do that in a very kind way." Let me give you an example. Last night, we had a guy who was just going crazy in the live feed, dropping all sorts of language and this kind of stuff, and he was just really mad. And here's why he was mad. He lives in India, and he doesn't understand why our instruments cost so much money, so much more than anywhere else in the world, which is a false statement because they're more expensive in different places. And the reason is taxation from the particular country. Okay? So the amount of tax that the import tax that costs for a regular Taylor guitar now sometimes doubles the price of the guitar, and it's totally unfair.
Yeah.
But it's out of our control. So when he got mad at us last night, what did I do? I said, you know what? Let's answer the tough question. I hear why you're frustrated, so let's talk about it. And you can diffuse a lot of things that way, right? So that's it in a nutshell. My job is to oversee how we speak to customers, tell stories about all the amazing things we do. I can send you some links to some stuff and you can see it. It's better than doing it over Zoom. That's a little weird. So I'll send you some links and some content that we're working on now, and you'll see some beautifully shot footage of us planting trees in Cameroon, and you'll see footage of people in the factory putting guitars together. So that's my job. My job is to tell stories for Taylor Guitars and sometimes speak for Mr. Ford's class.
I wanted to say something, and I'll say it in front of the class. I had talked to my principal about this. One of the things I really love about Taylor Guitars is how interested you guys are in the environment. And I think that there really should be more businesses that take that approach. Um, and I would love to someday, and maybe it's already out there, is to not a documentary about Taylor Guitars saving the planet, Not that's not the documentary. The documentary is Taylor Guitars is doing this. Why aren't more businesses doing this? And that's the focus of the documentary, a little short film that one of my students or a group of my students could work on with members of Taylor Guitars to showcase what you guys are doing and tell the rest of the world, get on board. You should be doing this. Every company should be doing this, or finding out a way to be more environmentally friendly. So I really appreciate that about you guys, and hopefully someday we can make that happen if it's not out there already.
That'd be a really fun project because you hear this buzzword of sustainability,
Uh,
right? The word sustainability. Nothing, no company is sustainable. It's a journey, it's not a destination, right? It's a thing that
ongoing.
it's ongoing. So even with us, we say how are working to become more sustainable.
Mhm.
And it started with Bob Taylor, who's our co-founder, and he wanted to figure it out, right? If we don't plant more trees than we use, then we're
Yeah,
going to run out of trees.
yeah, it's a problem.
And a lot of people say, well, why don't you just not use trees? Well, because it's actually healthy to bring trees down and plant more trees,
Mhm.
right? Just like a hedge or a bush at your house. You know, I trimmed all of my hedges last week. The reason is because if I don't, then it will become diseased and it will stop growing. So it's like getting a haircut,
Yep.
which is funny. I got my first haircut in second haircut in 2020 yet the other day. So
Wait,
I
you
had very long hair a
cut
minute
your
ago.
own hair? Come on.
Anyway, but that's it. We know that we need to use all of the wood that we cut. So find interesting ways to use it all. A really good story is when you cut a fingerboard of a guitar, the fingerboard is the part that your hand frets all the notes on. That is not a perfect rectangle. It actually has a slight taper to it. So that means we cut strips that are maybe about, I don't have anything really to show you how long, but we'll say about this long, right? And they're wedge shaped. So Bob Taylor looked at them one day and he often does this.
He's thinking.
He's thinking, what can I make out of that?
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to waste it.
Don't want to waste any wood. I got you.
So you know what he made?
What?
Chopsticks.
Whoa, chopsticks.
So Taylor Guitars also has a side business called Stella Falone Kitchen Woodcrafts. And we use orphaned wood to make kitchen woodcrafts like salt and pepper mills and chopsticks and cutting boards and knife blocks and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I want you to go back and say that term one more time. Orphan wood.
Orphaned wood. So it's wood that can't be used, but it still has a purpose, right? It's been left behind. And often most builders leave wood behind. We don't want to leave it behind because then you're wasting it and it's not doing anything for the environment. You want to use it all. Here's an example. This right here is a ebony guitar slide.
Cool.
So if you're familiar with what a guitar slide is, this one's right. It's a guitar slide. You put this on your finger and you use it to slide up and down the frets. So it makes a really interesting noise. You can Google it and look at somebody with a slide. All right. No one had ever been made one out of wood before. Ebony is really hard to work with. It's like the hardest wood in the world to work with. And we figured out a way to make slides, drill holes in them. Yeah. So this is wood that would not be usable for anything else except this. So that's an example of stuff that we've done. And I got to tell this story. I got to tell the story about these wonderful people in Cameroon, right? Who we've helped give and build an economy for. It's really different, right? Working in Cameroon, it's a third world country. It's a very, very it's developing, and there's a lot of disease, and there's a lot of things over there that just. I've been to Cameroon, and like being when you walk in, and it's like, whoa, this is not San Diego. One job, one person. This fella right here, one job takes care of 30 people. Think about that. Imagine if your family or your village was 30 people deep.
Right.
One job in Cameroon can cover them. It can put their kids through college. It can feed the entire village, right? So
Yeah.
that is people are the most important part of this sustainability or the environment. If we don't invest in the people and we don't take care of one another, we're not going to have an environment.
Right.
So that's a big thing. So I appreciate that that's Mr. Ford, that that's one of your things that you like about Taylor, but that's the mindset. The mindset is how do we take care of the people? And then comes the trees.
And I like how you said that sustainability is not a place that you're trying to get to. It's an ongoing thing. I talk a lot about that with just learning, that we are all lifelong learners. And if you stop learning, it's just like a pool of water that doesn't have water coming in and going out of it. It just turns green and gets, super gross and smelly. And so you got to do that with learning. You also have to do that with sustainability. And the that's the number one thing that I like about Taylor. The number two is I love that bass.
Right. The GS Mini Bass is the best instrument we make,
And
especially.
number three, the thing I like most about Taylor is Jay Parkin.
Oh, and Al Moreno. Al's awesome.
Yeah, we got to get Al on this
And Joanne.
thing, man.
And Joanne, and we have so many people. The people at Taylor are my favorite part. It's inspiring to get on and talk to and be around such. Taylor Guitars is a it's wild. It's a company full of overachievers, and I know that sounds weird, but I went to school for political science and special ed. I wanted to be a special education teacher, um, and then realized shortly after that I don't know if I had the patience to be a teacher. However, it's really interesting, so I find different ways to help, right? But I loved music, and I played music my whole life, and I was in bands, and so one day I was touring. I used to tour manage and guitar tech for bands all over the world, big bands, small bands, artists, DJs, um, for a long time. I travel. I've been to 22 countries, and I've seen the world and the life and flying on private jets and all that kind of stuff. And one day I said, I want to make a record label and put out my friends' music. That's what I wanted to do. I figured out that was my passion. And why I didn't do that. I found a friend. I had a friend who had a record label, and she said, "Hey, will you help me do my record label?" And I did that. And it was the most amazing thing that I've ever done. You know why? I
Wow.
failed. We failed.
Oh, you
We failed.
failed.
The label did okay, but we failed over and over again. We didn't have enough money, or we didn't have enough this, or we didn't have enough that. So that is truly the root of where my content marketing experience came. I didn't know what it was called, but I knew that I didn't have any money, and I had to tell the whole world about this record so that people would buy it.
Well, you know what they say failure leads to, right?
Success.
Yeah. Failure leads to success. It's healthy to fail.
You can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Taylor Guitars has failed. We fail every single day. We torture test guitars. Do you know what that means?
I can
Yep.
only imagine. I want to get a video of
You
that.
probably could take the drone that you have for your class, right?
Yeah.
And do some aerial. Too bad it's by the airport, so you can't.
Right, right. I'll have to
You
bring
could you
you
could
with
take it and you could fly it over Taylor Guitars building, and you would see random guitars just placed on the roof of the building.
really.
And that's because we're testing what happens when 100-degree heat bakes the guitar. Or I've seen stuff like throwing a guitar off a roof. Let's see how it falls. Let's see how a guitar breaks when you knock it over. Let's see what happens when you hit a guitar with uh, you know freezing cold temperatures. Let's see what happens with.
That's the video I want to make next. I want to make the Taylor testing video.
Yeah, we did a primetime episode on torture testing and some of the stuff that it's done. And you know what we're trying to pass or fail? So we said the failure is leads to success.
Yeah.
We're trying to see what happens to a guitar if we cut an angle 200 thousandths of an inch different.
Uh-huh.
100 thousandth of an inch. Do you know how big that is? We'll say a thousandth of an inch is this thick.
That's why you need those CNC machines to like cut those. You right?
Yeah, this is like 1,000th of an inch thick. So now imagine 200 thousandths of an inch. That's insane. You can't even see it, right?
Yep.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make something fail so that we can make it last long for the future. That's life.
Jay, I'm putting in the chat right now for students to throw their questions in here because we're supposed to end at 11 because students have other classes that they have to do
Okay.
after that. But so we have about 10 minutes. If you guys want to throw in questions for him so you can get credit for today's assignment, that'd be cool.
Is your job fun?
Yeah, I don't know how you handle this, Jay. Do you want me to read the questions or or you just want to follow them in the chat?
You can. How about you read them and then you can. Yeah, that's awesome. You go
So
ahead.
we got one from Laurel Smith here. Is your job fun?
My job is the funnest job on the planet. And part of the reason why it's the funnest job on the planet is because I make up what I do every single day. I mean, I have deadlines and I have projects and I have stuff, but like, let's put it this way. In the last 30 days, I've delivered 74 pieces of video content for different various reasons. That's very hard to do. And like, it's very challenging and sometimes you want to pull your hair out, but it's the funnest thing in the world. I get to talk about guitars and wear baseball hats and do a podcast. Really fun. Thanks.
And hang out with baseball players.
Totally.
I'm not going to ask that question because that'll go a different direction. But here's another one. How many hours do you work a day?
Uh, I'm a different breed. I find time. Sometimes I work 12, 15 hours a day. Sometimes I work 8. Sometimes I work. I'm a hard worker and I work all hours of the night. I'm also a combat veteran, so no matter what time I go to bed, if it's 2:30 in the morning, I'm up by 5:15. So at 5:15, even if I'm laying in bed, I'm working.
Yeah. I didn't know that. You were in the military?
Yes,
Okay. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
you got it.
How long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing Taylor guitars. I've been there for over 4 years. In April, it will be 5 years.
Okay.
Content stuff, I've been doing it for as long as I can remember.
Okay. Here's a good one. What's the difference between a $3,000 guitar and a $200 guitar?
Well, we don't make $200 guitars. A $3,000 guitar is it has what we call more appointments. Appointments would be aesthetic additions to the guitar or features. So a $3,000 guitar may have, many different wood types on it. So like a spruce top or rosewood back and sides with maple binding and mahogany fingerboard, and then specific.
Maybe people get their initials in their
Yeah.
guitar or something like
Our average sale guitar, our highest selling guitar is an 814 CE, and it costs $3,400. And it just has different things to it. A less expensive guitar has less of those things, a little bit more simplified, but the manufacturing for Taylor is still the same. You don't need to buy an expensive Taylor to have a really great one.
I think you already answered this earlier on. Yusuf just jumped into the class here. He was saying, "What kind of videos do you make?" Do you want to briefly go over that again, or?
Yeah, I make videos for everything. So storytelling videos I'll send you some links. Storytelling videos. We're working on a documentary in Cameroon that's talking about a process of, it's a whole, basically it's a story about planting trees and how we harvest trees and stuff like that. Just down to artists, right? Playing our guitars, learning about our guitars. I do content for when we have a new guitar. I have to make advertising content for that, or training content, so on and so forth. So social. Sometimes it's just somebody playing a guitar and we throw it up on social. But I also, but yeah, pretty much that.
Very cool. Brian Green says, "How much training do you need to get a job at Taylor Guitars?"
Depending on what you want to do. Um, some things you need to have, it's more of an experience thing than it is a training
Yeah.
thing. If you're into becoming a craftsperson who just like loves to make stuff, we have the most talented guitar builders on the planet. And you have to have a subset of skills, like you've worked in woodshop before, and everything else we can train you on how to do it, and you can become like a, you know, have an awesome career in building instruments. For the marketing team, it's more experience. Often when you just submit a resume or something like that, the job will say must have a college, diploma. I don't. I'm not going to say going to college is bad or going to college is good. My experience is, do what makes you wake up in a good mood.
I
And
love
if
that.
we could get the world to learn every day and teach them every day that you do something that you're so passionate about that you wake up in a good mood, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not, and I know you've heard this before, and this may be inspiring or not inspiring. I don't, I don't really care. Money is not the answer to success. Now, it is the cause of stress. So I get that, but it's not the answer to success.
Right.
I don't want to hear a secret. I could leave Taylor Guitars and go make a ton more money,
Yeah.
but it's not Taylor Guitars, and it's not with the people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
And it's just money at the end of the day. Do I need do I need a Ferrari? Heck no. Nope. I need a vehicle that's safe and it's cool and I have fun. And you know what? People say without money you can't afford things. You can afford anything you save your money for,
Yeah.
right?
You
So
know,
if you're I work with people who don't get paid that much money and they have the biggest, awesome, coolest houses in Cardiff,
yeah.
simply because they worked hard to get there and buy the house that they wanted. So that's the thing. It's not about training so much as it is about experience and attitude. If you have an awesome attitude, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
And if you could show people what you've done and how many times you failed and
Yeah.
be open and honest and transparent about it, you'll win.
I love that answer. Thank you so much for that. Let me scroll down here. For a podcast with no production, does that mean it's non-edited?
Uh,
So I think he's talking about your Tuesday
Prime
night
time.
meetings, or yeah,
Yeah, so the live podcast thing that we do, it's more like a live show. That means it's not edited at all. So whatever comes out of my mouth comes out of my mouth. And we make it fun, and we get yelled at a lot for talking too much. But that's what it is. It's a guitar nerd talk show. And then the podcast that we do is fully edited, and that's done in the studio. Early on with COVID and last year when we had the stay at home, or earlier in the year when we had a stay at home order, we tried to do Zoom podcasts, and it's just really hard because we have a level of audio quality that we want that we just couldn't get. But
I'm saying last chance to get credit by asking a question to everybody. I think most people have had a question in here. If I missed anybody, please let me know ASAP so I can get to your question. Um,
Oh, you know what? Over here, Ali wrote, he sent a link to the Taylor Swift Baby Taylor.
uh-huh.
So that's a scratch and dent Baby Taylor. You know what that means?
Well, it was
That
like,
means
it was a
we
second.
had a used or a demo version of it and we sent it to them so they can sell it for less money. Um, the
Oh,
difference of
music.
that guitar,
Yeah, it's musician's friend.
yep, musician's friend, that guitar in particular, um, the new they cost just under $400, so like 370 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal, right? So our $3,000 guitars are we use different glue, different wood, different process of building, so on and so forth. That's where the expense comes from.
It's good question. Yusuf is saying, do you make every instrument? I'm not sure. Uh,
Oh, like drums and different things. We don't we solely make acoustic guitars. We used to make a full scale bass. I don't know if you remembered it, but you needed like a full semi truck to like get it moving big. And then now we make a little bass. We do not make everything. We make a hybrid acoustic electric guitar. We'll be making electric guitars again. We may make other things like amps and stuff like that. Pedals, maybe like effects pedals, in someday, but mainly it's just guitar.
um, Maybe didgeridoos.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome, like a oboe or something.
Right. You're those little frogs that you can little
Yeah,
weird like frogs. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Any last minute questions? It is 11:01, so I need to stop the meeting to be respectful of those people that need to go to another class. If you want to stay on here for an extra 5 minutes or so, I'll keep the meeting going. But I'm going to stop the recording now. And I want to thank Mr. Parkin. And I want to thank everybody for being here and part of this. This is our first ever guest speaker on Zoom. So, we didn't have the whole class, but I feel like we had a good cross section of people on here. And I was really proud of how you guys handled yourself on this. So thank you. And if you want to thank Mr. Parkin right now, you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself and say something. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now.